How's it going, folks? It's Marshall. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. It's Studio Tour 2019. Let's just get a nice quick panorama around the room real quick. So I haven't done one of these in a while and had been planning to do one for some time, but I'm actually planning a move pretty soon and I'm going to be selling a few things, and so I figured it's a good time to just let you guys see how things are at the moment, and I'll probably do another one once I get moved. Anyway, let's talk about the gear. So I'm going to go through these as quickly as possible. We'll start up in front here. Let's start with this. This is a pocket operator Speak. Love this little thing. Haven't used it much in productions, but been playing around with it. It's a nice little gadget. Obviously a Push version 1. I actually own 3 of these. But yeah, it's no need to really upgrade in my opinion, unless you want some of the fancier bells and whistles, but these can be had for about $250 nowadays. I think when I bought mine it was like $900. So yeah, under here we have the IK Multimedia UNO Synth. I really like this synthesizer. I think it sounds really wonderful actually, and for the price it's not a bad deal at all. The interface is a little lacking, but it's got a nice editor with it, and again the sound is the most important thing with something like that. For the price and the sound that you get from that, I really enjoy it. So over here we have a Novation 61 SL. This is my big kind of primary keyboard controller at the front desk here. Got a nice little microphone up here for the YouTube videos. I've had that for like 10 years. It's an MXL2000, something like that. And then we got a disheveled Meeseeks over here. If you guys are familiar with any Rick and Morty stuff, I just have him hanging there to remind me that at least I'm not a Meeseeks who can't help Jerry shave a couple strokes off his golf game. So yeah, we got a couple of racks over here. We'll start over here. An MS-20 Mini. The MS-20 is a classic synthesizer, and Korg really was kind of the first ones, if I remember correctly, to kind of come to market with a reissue of a classic synthesizer like this. It's analog. It does have slim keys, as you can see on there. It's about 80% the size of an original, but from what I understand, it sounds pretty close, if not identical to an original. I've never owned a vintage MS-20, but I really like it. Semi-modular. We've got a nice patch bay. I like the 2 filter situation with the high pass and low pass, and I've used this for bass actually in several tracks, and I really dig it. So moving down in the rack, we've got a patch bay. Obviously there's a power conditioner up here. It's kind of cool. It's got a couple lights, which shine down, and I just have that on for effect. Normally I don't even have those on, but I can imagine if you're in a dark environment like a live show, those would come in pretty handy. But I really wanted it because it's got the display for the I guess the amount of voltage that's coming out of the wall right now. So, and that tends to fluctuate throughout the day, but obviously it's nice having a central hub like that I can plug all of these devices into and just flip a switch to turn stuff off and on. Like I can turn the whole shelf off, or the whole rack off if I want. Anyway, so under the patch bay, we have an EMU Proteus 2000. This I picked up for super cheap on Reverb.com a while back, and the main reason is because this was utilized by Marty O'Donnell and a lot of the Halo music from the original Halo Combat Evolved soundtrack. And it's got some of my favorite tunes of all time, actually. That's one of my favorite soundtracks ever. That and probably the Fight Club soundtrack. And I've been working on some remixes for the Halo music, and that was actually the catalyst for picking up all these sound modules. The Proteus is one. Integra 7, have used that actually quite a bit. I actually really like that. I think it has a lot of the XV5080 sounds in it and some other things. They say it has like 6,000 sounds in it, and I'm not usually one for pre-made sounds or anything. I like to kind of create my own. That's why I like synthesizers so much, but there's definitely some utility in this, and all of these actually. And again, so down here underneath the Integra 7 is the JD990. This is one I'm having some issues with the screen. Apparently I've damaged the ribbon cable in there, or it was damaged, and when I went to do my disassembly video a while back, fixing the rack errors, I think I made it worse. Anyways, I have a replacement screen, but I don't have a replacement cable. So if anyone knows what kind of cable that thing takes, let me know. It would be extremely helpful, because I've ordered several that I thought would do the trick. I think it's a 14 pin, you know, like flat ribbon. But I think I've got the spacing or the size of the pins wrong. I don't know what it's supposed to take. So if anyone knows what ribbon cable I need for the 990, please leave in the comments. That would be very helpful. So anyways, underneath that is the XV5080. This I got because it is such an amazing sounding sound module. Again, it's a testament because it's included in the Integra 7. But the thing is that this happens a lot with reissues of especially the digital stuff. I noticed this, where they get it like kind of close, but like there's still something kind of missing, and in those cases, like, it's better to just buy the original. And so I did pick this up. I think I picked this up before the Integra 7. I think after I kind of got most of these, I was like, well, maybe I'll just get Integra 7 as well, so I have the latest and greatest along with everything else. And the 990, I picked that up because it has some very specific sounds, again, that were used in the Halo Combat Evolved soundtrack by Marty O'Donnell. So anyway, underneath that is the Korg Triton rack, and I bought this from a local guy in Fort Collins, and it's in fantastic shape. Didn't have any of the sound ROMs, so I picked all those up that I could find on eBay. So I haven't installed them yet, and that'll probably have to wait till after the move, actually. But I really like it, and actually the reason why I got this is because initially I thought maybe Marty O'Donnell used some sounds on that. I was watching a Synthmania video and heard some stuff, and I was like, oh, is that the same sound? And like, it was really close, but it's definitely not the same sound that he used in the track that I'm working on. It's the Undercover of Night sounds track, if you're interested. Anyway, so down here we have a Behringer XR18, and it's pretty dark down there, so I'll just kind of zoom back. But I've got 3 Behringer XRs in this studio. They're great. I really like how the interface is wireless. Basically, have it connect to your network, or you can use them as an access point. But because I have 3 of them, they're all signed into the Wi-Fi, and I can pull them up on the main machine and do my editing. Or, well, you know, sound levels and everything. This right here is this is an intensity shuttle, a Blackmagic intensity shuttle. Now, there's several computers in here, and I'll do probably a whole separate video on the computer setup in here. But there's a computer here, there's a computer there, there's a computer here, there's a computer there, and there's a computer way back over here. Anyway, so the whole thing is that to do my video production for the streams and videos and things like that, I use some software on the computer. And I route audio into it, and I was using an older Behringer USB. I can't remember the model. I just actually sold it today, but I've replaced that with the XR18, and I have intentions on rerouting things. But again, since I'm moving, like, I'm just gonna leave stuff as it is for right now. But love the XR branded mixers from Behringer. I think they're great. So speaking of mixers, here is my Yamaha 01V96 version 2. This replaced my 003 rack, and I think the last studio tour I did, I talked about the 003 and how I don't think I would ever sell it. Well, I haven't sold it, I still have it, but I have actually replaced it with this, primarily because I've got much more input options here, and the faders are motorized, which is really cool. And I had actually planned, I've been working for like a couple years on trying to develop a live show. And after I saw Kebu, if you haven't heard of Kebu, check him out on YouTube. He does fantastic live performances with a bunch of vintage analog synthesizers, and he has one of these. And when I saw that, I was like, I think I might need one of those. And looked him up, and you know, this is the version 2. You can get this for, I think I paid $600, somewhere around there for this. A brand new one is like $2,000. So, and this is the older model. I'm not sure what's different. Oh, I know what's different. The USB connection on this board is actually used to connect to the computer to control the mixer from the computer, kind of like the XRs do, right? But with you have to have a USB connection for it, and it works and it's great, and I really like it. But there's no audio pass through over USB. So what I have is an ADAT card in here, 32 channel ADAT card. So there's basically 4 ADAT ports, if I remember. It might be 8. I can't remember. Actually, we could probably take a peek down here. I think it's, see those right there, those silver? Yeah, there's 4 of them. Those go into an RME media face USB hub and converts the ADAT into digital. Well, it's already digital, but converts it into USB basically and plugs into the computer. Anyway, I love that mixer. I would like to upgrade it eventually and get something that I don't need to convert the ADAT. But it's kind of nice because I have like I want to say I have the Triton and something else hooked up to the media face. Because I think that's 32 channel. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, it's kind of nice because I have a couple extra ports on that media face that I can plug other synths in that have ADAT out. So anyway, yeah, over here, this is kind of the mobile rig rack, and this is what I had intended to take when I do shows eventually, and one of these days I'll actually do it. But on here we have a Motu 128 Media Express. It's basically a big ass MIDI hub, and it's got 8 in, 8 out MIDI connections. And I had originally planned to do a bunch of MIDI DIN hookups because I was tired of the USB latency that I was getting on a lot of things. But what I ended up doing is actually upgrading this computer. So I build computers. I've been doing it since I don't know, 2004 maybe. The last store-bought computer I purchased was probably in 2003. Ever since then, I've been making them. Well, buying the components, putting them together. It's like Legos. It's real easy. Anyway, so this is a really a monster, and it's an i9-7900X CPU in there, and it's not the tippity top, but it's pretty close, and it's super powerful, and with a large amount of RAM. I've experienced far less issues with latency and things like that over USB. Anyway, so down below that is a Triplite 16-port USB hub. Now this is a 2.0 hub, and I had purchased this originally again because I own every one of the Roland boutiques as of right now that are out as of January 2019. Well, probably be February by the time you guys see this video. But anyways, the problem with that is this is essentially a hub, and you plug this into a port, USB port on your computer, and either with PCI port or a PCI card that's a USB hub also, or into the motherboard. And the problem is that USB, especially USB 2.0, there's only so much bandwidth it has to pass data back and forth. And with all those Roland boutiques, they all pass MIDI, they all pass audio. They're all their own separate little audio interfaces. And this, it just doesn't have enough throughput with USB 2.0. And so this didn't actually function as I had hoped. However, it still has come in very handy. For a while I was using it to plug in my dongles, but I found a solution to actually get some additional ports in the back. And I have those plugged in back there, but I can plug in storage. I have this little cable right here is for my pivot head glasses. Yeah. Anyway, it's nice to have, but it's definitely not an expense that you should make, I think, because this is actually designed to, be in an area where people need to charge a bunch of phones and stuff. Basically, it's basically a glorified phone charger, phone charging hub, because you can plug it in separate. You don't necessarily need the data sync, but that's what I was trying to use it for. So, yeah, USB is kind of a bitch in that way. Anyway, so down here we have a Moog Slim Phatty. And the Slim Phatty and the Little Phatty are two of my favorite Moog synths. It's kind of hard to pick my favorite Moog synth now because I own several, and you'll see here, but this is one of my first. Actually, the Little Phatty was my first, but I've had several of those, and this is actually my second or third Slim Phatty. because when I started getting into synthesizers, this was right around the time these were brand new, these and the little Phatty. And, you know, I'd buy stuff and then realize I needed to eat some food sometimes, so I would sell some stuff, and these were sometimes some of the things I sold. Anyway, so I have this again, and it's one of my favorites, and hopefully I don't ever have to sell another one. Down here is a Access Virus TI2. So the Virus line has not been updated in like over a decade, but you know, we've got the Waldorf Cura coming out, and that's an FPGA synthesizer. It seems very much like what a TI3 probably should be. But as we all know, the guy that developed the Virus, I cannot recall his name at the moment, but he designs amps, and I think he does amp modeling. And so we're probably not going to get a Virus 3. If we do, I'll be surprised. But the nice thing is, at least the last time I checked, you know, we're still getting updates for the Virus TI software and editor to keep it compatible with modern operating systems and things like that. And yeah, mine's been great. I really love it. I've used it quite a bit. And a Virus is, I think it's still an essential tool item, but there's so much more now that maybe it's just a little less essential. I guess that doesn't really make sense. Anyway, all right, so let's come over to here. This is another synth stack. This is kind of the Moog shrine. And I've got three obviously wonderful Moog analog synthesizers. Up here, of course, is the little Phatty. Now, again, like I said, I've had about 3 of these, and this is the 3rd one, and hopefully the last one that I'll ever need to buy. But it's white and blue, and it looks really nice. And again, this is just one of my favorites. This and the Slim Phatty, although these do sound different from one another, so don't let the name Phatty fool you. They sound different, but actually, since I've had several of these, I can attest that there are differences between, you know, from one Phatty to another, one little Phatty to another little Phatty. There's differences in the sound, and that comes down to it being analog. And that's one of the reasons why I really wish I wouldn't have sold the first one that I owned, because I created so much music on it. And yeah, you could get super close to the sound that you had, but it's something still just a little different. Anyway, down here is a Sub 37 Tribute Edition. So these have been, I don't know if they're still, I think they're still in production, but Moog has also released the subsequent 37, which has, I think, it's obviously silver, but I think it also has some additional CV on the side. And yeah, this, I could pay Moog a couple $100, send this to them, and they would install the CV mods and make it just like a subsequent 37. I'm not sure if they do anything else to it, but I'm kind of content with it the way it is, so it'll probably stay that way. So down here is obviously the classic MiniMoog Model D, and many of you may have seen this on my channel doing some demonstrations between it and the Behringer D and the SE-02. And you know, as close as those other synths sound to this, it definitely does not defeat the experience of sitting in front of a Model D and getting your hands all over it, because it's definitely an experience, and it's one that I am so grateful to have. Like this, it's a piece of history, and just knowing the company and where this came from, how it came about, how successful and influential this instrument was, you don't get that extra from a clone. And the clones are very good. Not gonna lie, the Model D sounds, you know, the Behringer D sounds very, 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 very close, if not identical, with certain tweaks to this machine. But it's an amazing synthesizer. All right, so we'll go on to this other synth stack here. Now, this is the one that you will notice sitting right behind me, flanking me in my videos, if you will. Several flagships on this stack. We've got the Arturia MatrixBrute. Guys, Arturia knows how to make synthesizers, and they have proven this throughout the years, I think, since they started making the hardware. You've got the MiniBrute, the MicroBrute, the Micro Freak, or whatever it's called, that's just been announced at NAMM this year. That looks really cool. And I gotta tell you, the interface on this is one of the best that I've ever experienced on a synthesizer. I love programming this thing. It is super easy to set up your modulations with this giant ass modulation matrix, and it's just a lot of fun. I just wish it had more voices, but you know, maybe that's something we'll see in the future. But anyways, lovely synth from Arturia. Highly recommended. Well, what do we have down here? It's a Waldorf Quantum, and this was a synthesizer that I pre-ordered back in June of 2018. It felt like it took forever to get here because it kind of did. It took like 6 months, almost 7. But it was totally worth the wait. This right now is probably my favorite synthesizer in the studio to play with at the moment. I think mostly because I really just enjoy the way it sounds, and I'm very pleased with this purchase. Let's just say that. And they're not done. They've just released a new firmware which added a whole nother synthesis engine to this thing, which already is packed with traditional virtual analog waveforms, wavetable, particle, resonator, and then the new one, which I can't remember what it's called, but it essentially turns a single oscillator into a synth of itself. So this, I'm going to be digging into this for a very long time, and it will be just all over my music in due time. So moving down to the bottom, this is the Moog One 16 voice analog polyphonic analog synthesizer. I should say it like that, probably. Again, like the Waldorf Quantum is probably the pinnacle of digital hybrid hardware synthesis, and it's hard to really say. I mean, I consider this a digital synth. It has analog filters, but the real nuts of this thing are digital. And yes, technically it's a hybrid, but let's just say for goodness sake, this is a pinnacle of digital hardware synthesis. And I don't know of anything that is this powerful in the digital realm. This is the pinnacle of analog hardware synthesis. It does have some digital bits for effects and things, but you can get a straight through analog path by bypassing those. You don't have to use them. And Moog is continuing to release updates to this. It's still not ready for prime time, in my opinion. It's still missing some very basic functionality and features, which is something that's to be expected. This is also serial number 7, so it's not like when I bought this, I knew that there was going to be some development time still invested in this, and be a little bit of a guinea pig. But it is one of the coolest looking synthesizers. It definitely takes a piece from the MiniMoog, which was actually the last polyphonic synthesizer Moog ever made, I believe, before this. And it's a great synth. It just needs some more updates to get it fully functional. And not that it doesn't function right now, it definitely does, but just some minor gripes that I don't want to get into that in this video. This is an amazing synthesizer. Don't let any of the little niggles here and there detract you from purchasing one, because they will be resolved in due time, and this is going to go on to be a classic synth, I believe. All right, so up here, this is the this is kind of the I don't know, the land of misfit synths. We've got the Behringer DeepMind 12, not really a misfit, but a budget 12 voice analog synthesizer is something really cool. And this thing was teased for quite a while. I remember being super excited to the point to where I even messaged Behringer, and I had a HoloLens and I saw their demo with the HoloLens. I was like, let me get a hold of that app so I could try that out, and they wouldn't let me because apparently I don't work for Microsoft, and that's okay. But anyway, this has been a great synthesizer. I need to utilize it more, but as you can see, I've kind of got my hands full with just these two over here. It's totally got me tied up at the moment, but this is still a great synthesizer, again, for 12 voice analog. Sounds great. I had a little bit of an issue with the first one I got, having some quality issues, but the dealer was able to get me squared away relatively quickly, and this one has been fantastic. So coming down here, we have a Korg Radias, and the Radias is also, this is one of those synths that You know, it's 24 voice, 4-part multi-timbral, came out in like 2006. And I had one of these in like 2007 and used it on a bunch of older tracks and stuff. And I sold it at one point, and I really wanted another one. So I got it, and it's here, and I have plans for this. I've done some cool demos on YouTube for this. I still love the synthesizer, but it's more of a... how do you say, sentimental value. And same kind of goes for the V-Synth GT down here. This was a synthesizer I'd owned way back in the day. The Veriphrase technology in this is amazing, and this can do so much stuff. I think that, I don't know like what the deal was, but I thought the V-Synth line, I wish they would have kept going with these and iterating. This is kind of like a super beefed up D50. With a much better interface, and also like you're just able to, the synth engine in here is really great. It doesn't even compare really to a D50, but the ability to add samples and layer samples, stuff, you know, in that way. And this is actually like 2 original V-Synths, which I'll get to in a minute because I have one of those, in one with a vocal designer and the Veriphrase and all that stuff. This is a great machine. I love this machine. And I had one and sold it and bought one again. So this is, the last couple of years have been me kind of getting back some of these synths that I've owned throughout the years that I really wish I hadn't have sold when I was younger, which has been great. But let's move on to the back wall, the synth wall. All right, folks, so we've got the synth wall here, and this is half-inch plexiglass that I put on shelves with some LED light strips kind of hot glued onto the back, and it looks really awesome. I love this. I thought this was a cool idea. Nice way to kind of showcase some gear and make it look pretty sweet, I think. The problem is plexiglass gets fingerprints on it super easy, and you're probably going to see some of those. Anyway, yeah, on this rack, we can start on the bottom. Actually, down there is a MicroBrute. I've got some plans to do like a mono synth madness with some of the cheaper monos, and I'll get to that eventually. But anyway, there's a couple other Behringer XR12s. There's 2 of those down there. There's a Sennheiser receiver for my lavalier, also for the videos. And over here we have a Clavia Nord Wave. I think they're just called Nord now, but I have a hard time dropping the Clavia. Anyway, Nord Wave, one of those synths I owned and wanted back. And here it is. The comb filter is really nice on this synth. One of the big selling points at the time was it came with monotron samples, and you could also import samples into this thing and use them as an oscillator, and that was kind of a cool thing at the time. It had a USB connection, but it was only to access the storage on the synth. It did not pass MIDI. This kind of predates that, but not by much. I don't think it was too long after this came on the scene that synths started to be able to plug in with the USB and pass MIDI. Actually, you know what? I want to say the V-Synth up here. This is a classic V-Synth. I don't have it plugged in at the moment, but this guy, I want to say, had USB connectivity for MIDI. God, I don't remember now. Anyway, for some reason this didn't have it, and you know, it was a bummer. But anyways, it's still a great sounding synthesizer. And with MIDI DIN, you can't go wrong. As long as synths continue to have 5-pin MIDI DIN or some kind of MIDI DIN, they'll be compatible for forever. So up here we have a Yamaha AN1X, and this one is loaded up with JB patches, and I'm probably not going to be able to get you guys a good shot of that, unfortunately, because the weird lighting with the LEDs. Anyway, I bought this on eBay, and it was in such great shape. All I had to do was switch the battery out. Yeah, this is a severely underrated synth. This is the problem with Yamaha synths, though. They have shitty interfaces, and this is no exception. Now, with time, like, I've done some messing around with this, and I can kind of get around with this, but I actually like the editor. And even though it's an old editor, I mean, this came out like 98? 97, 98, sometime in the 90s this came out, and it has an editor, and it works great. So anyway, this is a nice synthesizer, severely underrated. I don't think I'll ever find one in this good a shape because most of the time these little knobs are broken off and things, and the screens are bad. I don't know. But I got a good deal on this, and it's in great shape, and I plan to keep it forever. Okay, so up here we have the JP8000, and you know, the thing is I've gotten to synth battles on YouTube with people telling me how thin and shit this thing sounds. And while I may agree to some extent that it's not as beefy as other synths, the thing is that this was the first synthesizer to come with a super saw. And the super saw on this synthesizer, in my personal opinion, is unmatched even today. So this and the JP8080, if you're a trance guy or gal, you need to have one of these, because even subsequent later Roland synths like this or like this up here do not match the super saw on this guy. That's why I have it. It's a super saw synth for me, and I need to do some super saw comparisons between this, the Virus, the Moog One. I mean, I could do super saws all day long and just compare most of these synths. Let's see. But this one, to my ears, sounds the best. It is the sound of trance, and if you like trance, you need this. All right, so we'll come over here real quick. I have this little straggler, and I say little, it's kind of big. But this is a MS2000B. It is chilling because I have no place to put it, and that's just the way it is. We got some studio lights. We've got powered monitors. These are M-Audio BX8As that I've had since 2004. A couple of cameras, top down. That's my mug shot right there, the Sony A600 or 6000 or whatever the hell it is. Anyway, so the whole thing is the whole video production side of things. That's why there's this green back here. I usually have lights on the floor behind the synths, which help light that big ass wall, and I'm able to key it out. It looks, sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate because of the lighting in here. Yeah, that's kind of my setup in the main studio. But wait, guys, there's more. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Studio B. Yeah, there's more. This is kind of my overflow, but at the same time, I'm using this. This was supposed to be my live rig in here, and it's been torn down for some time because I've been experimenting with the boutiques. This is all 11 of the current boutiques available right now, and they are all set up and hooked up to this machine down here, and I'm able to do some magic and control everything from here, and I'll get into that in probably a separate video. But anyway, all the boutiques, you know, connected to an MX1. I don't think I've seen anyone do that yet, but all of these are hooked up to here, and they all work. And it wasn't easy. Roland, you guys need to make an updated MX1, like an MX01 or an MX2 or something, with a lot more I/O especially for these. Yeah, super excited for that. I've been really dragging my feet because there's just so much stuff that I have to do, and it's been going on. But I will get this done before I move. So we can come over here. Again, this is kind of my overflow. You can see there's a Nintendo. You guys in this Captain Skyhawk? Yeah, this kind of needs to get cleaned up. I've got a turntable here. Looks like that's an old cable modem. And it's probably pretty dark in here, and I apologize. But this is a TR-8. This is probably on the chopping block. I'm probably going to sell this because I did pick up a TR-8s. The TR-8s is packed away because I'm going to be moving, and I don't feel like trying to set it up if I'm just going to have to pack it right back up pretty soon. Then down here we have a Nord Micro Modular, and this I bought specifically for the vocoder, and as soon as I have time I'm going to dig into this more. I made a video on this a while back, but I need more time with it, and but I'll get this in use. There's a sound canvas down here. TB-3. The TB-3 is no way I would ever sell that. I love it. And even though the TB-03 is here, what I'd like to do is kind of do some pair-ups, right? Some team-ups with this, and the V-Synths, because the V-Synths can emulate the TB-303 type sound. They've got the 303 filter modeled in them. And while these, I think, sound better because they're using ACB technology, the V-Synths sound pretty good. All right, so back here, there's a Behringer D hiding away in the back corner, along with a Korg Monologue. Nothing against these. Again, these were bought specifically to do mono madness, and obviously some comparisons with the Behringer D. And if I ever do live, I have basically a portable Model D now. Over here is an M-Audio Venom chillin'. I have plans for this. I just haven't, again, been able to get around to it. Let's step back here where we have just a mess of cables, and City in Ruin, who is EchoCraft's friend. EchoCraft is a guy on YouTube here. Dude, I don't know if you can see this because it's really dark, but there's this spaghetti of cables. Over here, we have another MS2000B. And I'm selling one of the two. I have the other one in the other room, but one of these is going to get sold. I don't need two of them. Over here is the DX7. This is also on the chopping block. If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm not a fan of this thing at all, but I picked one up a while back. This one is in great shape. I'm not going to use this, so I'm just going to sell it. And if I decide I want DX7 in my life, I'll get the Arturia plug-in. Anyway, here's a JD800, and this is... I bought this because of Synthmania. Synthmania on YouTube has one of the best demos I've heard of this synthesizer, and I've always kind of looked at this and thought, wow, that's a really cool looking synth, and it's got some really amazing pad sounds. But this is a synth of the 90s, and it's kind of like a D50, I guess. I mean, I don't really know what to compare it to, but you got your partials there and layer things, and it's got PCM samples and you know, virtual analog waveforms and all these sliders, and it's a cool synth. These were plagued with red glue issues, and red glue meaning the glue that holds the weights in under the keys would like melt or something and totally mess up your keyboard. This one does not have that issue, but it does have a couple of keys up in this area that do not fire, and I think they just need to be cleaned. This, it needs to go and get serviced and just cleaned up. This is one of those things where it still functions, you know, and again, it's just hard to play when you have a couple of dead keys up here, if you're playing down here and you want keys up here. Anyway, it's just a nightmare. And I'll get it taken care of eventually, but this is a lovely synthesizer. And this is basically, the JD990 is kind of the rack version of this, although I think they have completely different presets, and there's some, I think, somewhat significant differences. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a reason why most people own both, this and the 990. And so I own both. So in this room, you'll notice there are 3D printers in here. This one has a bunch of shit on here that I need to put away. But here we have a MakerBot Replicator 2X, and I printed an entire table, a whole table with this, and it took a month. But I made an entire table, and it's a table for actually housing 2 of these and a mixer, which I think is underneath there somewhere. Actually, there's a 002 down there, or 001, or there's an old Digi design interface down there. Anyway, sorry, getting off topic. So I do my 3D printing in here. Again, this is all going to get moved. Hopefully, in my new place, I'll have enough garage space to put all my kind of Craftsman-y stuff with my little CNC machine and these down in that area, and actually hopefully allow me to make more of these stands. If you've noticed these stands here for the boutiques, I designed these and 3D printed the panels and cut the wood, and these are my creation. And there's a video on my channel where if you want to try and build your own, you can. You can go to Thingiverse and download the file for the panels. And I've given you specifications. Cut the wood. What kind of size wood you need. But I'd like to kind of sell these as a little side deal. But I need a better workspace. Oh, you know what? Look at that. The D50 or the D05 is turned off. Let's turn that on. Get that nice green from the D05. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to my studio tour for 2019. Stay tuned for the rest of the year. There's going to be some slow times because of the move, so please bear with me. That's going to be in a couple months, and I'm moving out of state, so it's kind of a big deal. And I'll have more on that later on in the year as that progresses. But for now, stay tuned. More quantum stuff coming up, probably more Moog One. Live streams, I'm going to try and get those going again pretty soon. And probably a NAMM wrap-up video, 2019 Winter NAMM, with EchoCraft and Mr. Cow Food. So stay tuned for all that. And I appreciate you guys watching, so please like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.